Greetings, everyone, and welcome to In the Kitchen with CHM, a webinar put on by the Choroideremia Research Foundation, hosted by myself, Cory MacDonald, and Eric Hartman. For those who don't know me, my name is Cory MacDonald. I am one of the co-founders of the Choroideremia Research Foundation and the Patient Engagement Director. And with me is Eric Hartman. Eric, why don't you say hello?
Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Hartman. I'm Director of Advocacy for the Foundation. And like Cory, I'm one of the old guys. I've been around since the beginning. And we are here to talk to you about making your kitchen more accessible with CHM. Cory's a couple years younger than me. I'm 63 with advanced CHM. So we have learned through the years how to adapt our kitchens. And Cory will give you a bit more from his end first.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, well, the backstory to this is about 15 years ago, my wife and I decided to redo our kitchen. And considering I do most of the cooking in the house, we decided to try to make it as CHM friendly as possible. So we're going to take you through my kitchen as well as Eric's kitchen and point out some of the various things that we did and that Eric has done to make his kitchen more accessible and safe for a CHMer to use well. So if we could go to the first slide, please. So there's several things that CHMers need to function within a kitchen and actually many other places safely and easily. Lighting and contrast are the two biggest things that we discovered as we redesigned the kitchen to make it easier for myself. The type of lighting is up to you. There's several different types, obviously incandescent, fluorescent, LED. We went mainly with shielded LED lights, which gave me a very bright light to work with, and we'll get more into that later in subsequent slides. And then contrast was the other big thing. And if you look, these are a couple of overview pictures of my kitchen. You will notice that the countertops are a light gray with a beveled edge, and the beveled edge is black. This allows me to see right where the edge of the counter is, so I'm not setting a glass down where I think it's a counter where it's actually bending down, and the next thing you know, the glass is on the ground. All of my countertop appliances, you'll notice, are either black or white, both of which contrast against the gray. If you look up towards the top of the picture on the left, you'll see that the cabinets are a golden oak color with the handles being black. Those handles were originally gold when we bought them, and I went to put them up and I couldn't see the handles. So I bought a can of black spray painted the handles, put them back up again, and bingo, no problem seeing the handles. So that's kind of an overview of what you can look for contrast. If you look underneath the cabinets a little bit, you'll see that the walls are a different color as well. So next slide, please. Okay, so under cabinet lights, both Eric and I have them, but due to the fact I use the LEDs overhead and recessed lighting, you don't see mine as well. So Eric, why don't you explain what you did here?
Right, and the difference between Cory and I is that I am a renter. So there are only a certain amount of things that we can do within a rental property to make our kitchens more accessible, but you can definitely make them accessible. If you see these pictures here, what I did was I actually installed a plug-in under cabinet LED lights. These are light bars that you can get online, and I simply put those up under the cabinet using some I think it was Gorilla Glue double stick tape, so I could take them down if necessary. But one of the other things I did, which my landlord may not be thrilled about, is I painted the bottom of the cabinets white to reflect more light. But you can see on the left, that is my normal lighting, and you can see the light source on the left is from up above. And if I stand in front of any of those counters, I was seeing a shadow. but using the under cabinet lights, you can see that the work light or the workspace area is brightly lit. So next slide.
And as you'll see in this slide, and in subsequent slides of Eric's kitchen, even though we did not plan this, we both have almost the exact same type of stove. These are the old style stoves with the metal coil burners, which again give you very high contrast. You can see exactly where the burner is. To give you an idea of some lighting, this is on the left-hand side is the lighting in my kitchen without the range hood lighting being on, and the right-hand picture shows my kitchen lights off with just the range hood lights, which are LEDs. So I can literally cook in my kitchen if I'm just at the stove with the rest of the lights off. Most of the time, obviously I don't do that, but that just gives you an idea of how the lighting can make a big difference too. And also your type of stove that you want to use is going to factor in, because you want that contrast to make it safer for you. The newer style glass top stoves, it's almost impossible for a CHMer to see the burner. So you might want to think about that as you look towards an appliance that you're going to need. Next slide, please.
So what I found, as I mentioned before, was that if I stood in front of the stove, I was having shadows, especially from the light source on the stove. And I realized I still needed some additional light. So I went online and did a little bit of research, and I found a gooseneck clip-on light that is LED. And as you can see, I can swing that light. In the right-hand picture, you'll see in the center there the glow of the light source, and then it lights up the skillets or anything that I'm cooking, especially deep pots. It makes it a lot easier. And again, I have much more advanced vision, but I live alone, and this definitely gives me the extra light I need to safely and effectively cook. Next slide, please.
So that kind of gives you an overview of lighting and contrast within the kitchen. And now to continue the contrast theme, here's some of the various items within a kitchen that can help you as well. The first thing we're looking at here is high contrast measuring cups. I own two sets of cups. One is white and the other is black. So depending on what I need to measure, I will grab the cup that has the contrast color. So if you look at the picture on the left, the black measuring cup has sugar in it, and the white measuring cup actually has barley grains for making beer. Also, if you look on the right-hand side, the same thing, high contrast measuring cups, high contrast letters, so that you can read them, and it makes it much, much easier when you're making stuff in the kitchen.
And as a follow-up,
go ahead, Eric.
As a follow-up with that measuring cups, and more specifically the spoons, one of the tricks for those of us who are sight impaired is to actually have an additional bowl, and you measure over the bowl, and a bowl with a lip, we'll show that a little later. Those bowls will allow you to accurately measure even if there is spillage and it's caught in the bowl, and then you can put it from there into the pot or pan that you need. So next slide.
And this is the first of a couple of different types of cutting boards we're going to show you in this webinar. This is the one that I purchased this for, I think, $15, but you're seeing two different cutting boards on the counters in the left and right picture. That's the same cutting board. One side is white, the other side is black. So again, depending on what I need to cut, if I'm cutting an onion, for instance, I'm going to use the black side. And if I'm, slicing up a steak, I'll use the white side. Basically you just use whichever side is going to be best for you to give you that contrast. Next slide. And here's another cutting board on the left-hand side. These are flexible cutting boards, again, readily available, many different websites. And as you can see in the picture, you can cut up on that board and then the board flexes and then you can then slide everything right into a pot. It makes it much, much easier. There's less spillage. You don't lose as much stuff unless you are chopping things at high speed and food flies everywhere like I do a lot.
And as
And on the right side, go ahead, Eric.
okay, I was going to say, because one of the problems that we have, I know I've had it, was beginning to do the saute as you're beginning to brown things and spin them around. One of the tricks I learned early on was if you cook in a deeper pot, and the picture on the right is a very deep pot and a Dutch oven. And I use that for all my sauteing because I can stir like a madman and I'm not going to spread it all over by mistake across the stove.
Yep, exactly. And to get back to the flexible board, if you do buy the flexible ones, I can tell you from experience, if you use very sharp knives, they do wear out. They're not quite as sturdy as you'd hope them to be, but they're not expensive either. So
Right.
if you do buy some, get yourself some backups at the same time. And I'll echo Eric's sentiment with the deep saute pan. I have frying pans that are 2 inches deep, and that I use those almost exclusively for the same reason, just so you don't lose stuff when you're trying to cook in it.
And as another hint for any of the CHMers, and I know Cory has come up against this, as have I, when we travel, if you do an Airbnb, you don't know what the kitchen's going to look like. And it's not a bad idea if you are going to be traveling to potentially throw a couple contrasting, or at least one contrasting cutting board in your luggage, because you may get to a kitchen and find out it's all black surfaces or all white. You may need that extra contrast, and it'll make all the difference in the world for you to be able to have a contrast on a countertop, whether it's just to make your coffee or to do chopping.
You're absolutely correct. And as an example, Eric, my wife and I went to Galveston, Texas, and back in February, and the kitchen, the floors, the cabinets, the countertops, all white. So were the appliances. I almost had to wear my sunglasses just to walk into the kitchen. It was so overly bright.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
And this is a continuation of safety. Cutting gloves are highly recommended if you want all 10 of your fingers and you're a CHMer. It's bad enough we're losing our sight. Let's not get scars at the same time. There are 100 different types of cutting gloves out there. I used, back in the old days when I worked in kitchens, the cutting glove I had was metal. It was all metal. Things have progressed and gotten better and more comfortable since then. I felt like I was wearing a medieval knight's gauntlet when I was in the kitchens back in the day. And they're, again, not very expensive, and they're very highly recommended so that you don't lose any digits.
On the right side, what you're also seeing is the example of the proper way to be able to trim. If you don't have the gloves, and that's just a classic chef idea, is you're keeping your knuckles bent under. And what you want is your upper knuckle to rub against the edge of I always use a wide chef's knife because it gives me a very broad surface to come up against as I'm chopping. But with your fingertips always tucked under, you're able to make more accurate cutting and safely.
Let's move on to the next slide, please.
Yep.
And here's there's a lot of various helpful gadgets, from talking kitchen timers to talking thermometers for the kitchen for when you're cooking. And Eric has taken advantage of a few of these, as well as some tactile aids that we're going to get into now. So go right ahead, Eric.
So as you see in the coffee cup there on the left side, those two prongs are a positive and a negative. If I am pouring something really hot, and sometimes I'll make preserves, things like that. If I have that on the side of the container, as soon as the fluid gets to the tips of those 2 points there hanging inside the cup or the container, it will begin to beep to let me know I'm near the top, if for some reason I did not notice it. Then another way to make your kitchen more accessible are tactile dots, and these can be easily gotten online or at the local low vision store where you live, or Amazon, or you could go on to the internet and search any low vision kitchen aids, and these will come up. I use them in this case for the microwave. You'll see I have a bump on the 1 and a bump on the 30 or the 32nd there. And I know generally if I'm heating anything up, it's usually 1.5 minutes for me. And if I need to go any more than that, 2 or 3 minutes, I'm just pressing the 32nd a couple more times to add the time up. Otherwise, you would have a lot of bumps. But those kind of bumps, you can bring those with you. They peel off. And if you're traveling, you can always put those on the microwaves or the appliances when you travel. I do that for coffee pots, on and off switches, things like that. And it makes my life while I travel that much easier. Can we have the next slide, please?
Well, wait a second, Eric. Don't go to the next one yet. Just to go back to the say when thing. Oh. To go back to the indicator there, the liquid indicator, the actual name of that, it's commonly called say when, but it is the official word that's used is liquid level indicator. So if you're searching for one of those, that's what you would want to search for. And for, I don't know how many people who are watching this are going to have had the training for orientation and mobility and home adaptation for low vision, but I highly recommend the liquid level indicator because it's not expensive. And what they teach you is to stick your finger inside the glass. And that's how you can tell where the liquid is if you don't have one of those, which is fine if you're pouring something for yourself. But if you have a friend coming over and you're pouring them a beer or a glass of wine or something like that, it's not very good to stick your finger in their glass. So yeah, definitely get that indicator. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that one in there. Go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
So when you talk about appliances, some of the things that you can purchase to make your life much easier, and I know the American Federation for the Blind and a lot of the other seminars that I've gone to have noted that for those of us who are visually impaired, it is really great to seek out toggle switches versus push button. And in this case, this is my toaster oven. It's a convection oven and even an air fryer. But you'll notice that I have been able to put a couple indicators on the two main things. If you'll see the picture there on the right, the dial, there's one for toasting, which is straight up, and 2 clicks over, you'll see another button, and that's for baking. So being a bachelor, if I'm doing a pizza, I'll click it over 2 clicks, and I know I'm on the oven. And if I go one past that, I've already got it memorized that that's the air fryer. So there are ways that even if you get something that is aesthetically pleasing, like a nice stainless steel appliance, it can, if you're married or your family likes the way that looks, you can still adapt it even if the writing is really difficult for you. You can get a sighted friend to help you put these dots, and these are clear, and it depends on the aesthetics of what you want. You could actually put on bright orange or black, or whatever you find would be easier for you to find. But these tactile buttons make a big difference in being able to work quickly and independently. At this point, I don't even really notice what I'm doing. I just know from where the dials are, I go up and it's got to be vertical for me, and so you can see here that even in the washing machine, I know all of us, when you pull that handle out, you're like, okay, where's the indicator point for those of us? Because many washing machines are tucked in a corner with not without good lighting. So I put that little dot right there in the middle of the washing machine, and I know that is where the pointer is, so I can go and select the type of wash cycle that I need. And next one.
So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to either Eric or I. The email addresses are up on the screen right now. And if you look towards the bottom of the screen, you will see if you go to our website on the resources page, you will find a listing of a couple of different websites, and there are many that are out there, but there's a couple listed on our website that can point you in the right direction where you can buy some of these products that we've shown you in this webinar. So next slide, please. Well, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us for this little walkthrough of Eric and I's kitchens. And we'd also like to thank our sponsors, Allergan and Biogen, for providing the funding for us to put on these webinars for CHMers and their family members and friends. So thank you for taking the time to walk through our kitchens with us. And Eric, you want to say a final word?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. If there are other areas of accessibility that you would like the CRF to be able to show you hints or tricks, please let us know. And again, we thank our sponsors for this. This is a great way for us to be able to share our knowledge and again, make living with CHM as easy as possible. Thanks again, and we look forward to talking to you soon.